George Kilpatrick, Inspiration for the Nation, celebrating people we feel good about. So glad that you could be a part of our conversation today. Listen, you know I'm a fan of books, and you know that I'm a fan of folks reading. And so on September the 9th, from 1 to 4 p.m., we are going to light a candle for literacy. And so to help us to do that, we got Cheryl Bellamy. She's with Light a Candle for Literacy. Where's it going to be, by the way, Cheryl?
The parade will be from Beecham Library on Salina and Colvin Street, march down Colvin to Midland, Midland to West Lafayette to Brighton Academy Middle School. And from 1 to 4 is the actual Children's Book Festival.
And and that's going to be at the Brighton Academy?
Yes.
Which is 300 West Brighton Avenue. Okay, got that.
Okay.
And then we're going to have, of course, a special guest, illustrator, activist, you name it, this brother does it all. Award-winning illustrator Greg Christie is in the house, gasart.com. You can find some of his great works, his great books, and we'll talk to Greg in a minute about his coming to the Light a Candle for Literacy and doing some workshops and all kinds of good stuff to make this event really, really successful. We're honored to have Greg come to Central New York because the brother's bad. He's got lots of books. We'll talk about that in just a moment. But back to you, Cheryl. So Light a Candle for Literacy, Parade and Festival, September the 9th from 1 to 4. You might see a brother there. We'll see how the schedule works out. I might be able to get over there. But Cheryl, this is a very
always invited.
Yes, yes. This is a very important event for the community. Tell me some of the reasons why and what will be going on there.
Well, we will, like I said, we'll have the parade, and we want children to dress up as their favorite literary character just to kind of spark the day off. Mm-hmm. And they'll dress as their favorite character, march in the parade, and we'll have a costume contest. The winner of the group costume contest will get a pizza party, and individual costume contests will give $50. Once we get into the actual event at 1 o'clock at Brighton Academy, we will have different authors throughout the building that will sign their books to the children. And we'll have at least 35 or 40 vendors there to go ahead and do information about their services. We will provide food. We'll provide entertainment. We will be having the Bubble Man come back this year, which, funny, he was the biggest draw last year. The kids, even after I left, after it was over, the kids were still there with the Bubble Man. But for the literacy event, it's very important to us to go ahead and have our children start with a love of reading. Reading will take them any place at any time, get them through the tough times. Reading is something that is essential in everyone's life. And those who do not know how to read can definitely tell you that they wish that literacy was more important to them when they were growing up.
And I forgot Greg's R. Greg Christie. Okay, let me just award-winning. Tell me about your love of books and reading and how you became such a prolific illustrator.
Well, I'm an illustrator of more than 70 children's books, and they're all traditionally published with publishers. And for me, I had a love of art when I was a young child. Mm-hmm. And anyone coming to the festival, it's the same thing. If you see any kind of spark in your young reader or young child, let them be exposed to different people who are doing things and also be exposed to the world of literacy. If you open up a book and learn to love reading when you're very young, it's just these studies show how much more successful you get later on in life. And so for me, I was hyper focused on art all my life, but thank goodness there was a library. My mother brought me to the library, and I used to read books and see some of the illustrators that I actually got to meet later on in life that I saw them as a child. So I got to meet people like Tom Feelings later on. He did a book, Middle Passage. Jerry Pinkney, who was like he passed away, but he really was somebody that was helpful to new people coming in as illustrators. So it was a journey. I started off loving art, learning to really appreciate books, but the actual illustration for children's books came about from doing record covers. I got out of art school. I went to school visual arts, and I ended up becoming a commercial artist. But I started doing record covers, and those turned into working with publishers to do children's books.
So back up for a minute. I mean, I know you've done some covers, Coltrane. What other covers have you done?
Joe Sample, George Benson, uh, Alice Coltrane, Pharoah Sanders. I mostly worked for Impulse Jazz Records. The biggest job was the 1961 Village Vanguard recordings, but they were released in 97. When I tell people I say 61, they say, "You're not that old. How old are you?" But they released that later, and I was fortunate enough to do 4 portraits of John Coltrane for each of those covers.
Very exciting. And then the art part of it took over. So you went from commercial art for the Impulse Jazz, as you just described, label, and then you went to doing books. How did that happen?
I would say that it's important to put yourself out there as an artist. If there's anyone aspiring as a writer or an illustrator for books, it's very important to put yourself out there. I actually got into children's books because of a record cover. It was not on my radar in art school. I didn't study children's books. I didn't learn. I appreciated them when I was younger, but it's just luckily a publishing company saw one of my album covers and asked me to do a book of poetry written by children. That first book was called The Palm of My Heart. It's a book of poetry by African American children speaking about the word black. That was the catalyst, and that book won the award called the Coretta Scott King Honor. And just so people who don't know, there's an organization called the American Library Association, and they decide everything that goes on in libraries in the United States. And every year they pick books out of maybe like 8,000 books that come out. They only pick 1 or 2 that win these awards. So to get that first, book is quite an achievement. But just to give you some background, one of the top awards is called the Caldecott Award, and that's from the 1930s. I think it was 1932 when they started that. No one of color got that award through the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. The 70s, the people I was speaking about, like Tom Feelings, and they started to get the award, but it still was not enough. So there was a Coretta Scott King committee in 71, and they got together and made an award in honor of Coretta Scott King and the mission of the King family. So anytime you go to a library and you see that award, the Coretta Scott King Award, it designates it as the most distinguished book by a person of color for that year. Same like the Caldecott, most distinguished award for any ethnicity for the year. So, you really can see a lot. If you see an award on a book, that's something to really bring to your home library or support.
And so what are you going to have the young people, and we're talking with Cheryl Bellamy, our Greg Christie, for the Light a Candle for Literacy Festival and Parade, September 9th at the, starting at Beecham, ending up at the Brighton Academy. So what are you going to have the kids do on the day of the event?
We will have plenty of different arts and crafts. We have some special African-American characters who are going to be there so the children can meet them. Last year was Princess Tiana and Black Panther. So we'll have those characters for them we'll have story time. We will have interactive things, like I said, Bubble Man, where the kids actually get out and play with the bubbles. We will have the bookstore there where the children are able to go and browse through the bookstore, pick their very own brand new book to take home. They will be busy for the whole 3 hours that they are there. We have singers, we have dancers for entertainment. We have storytellers and poets. So it's going to be a full event with many. It's very diverse as far as the different things that we have available.
And we'll have Greg. Greg, what are you going to have the kids do?
I'm gonna be there. Let them see me, and we'll be doing some art projects, just little cartoon drawings, and learning to express yourself visually.
You know, and let's see a couple of books you have that you've got for us there. One of them is called, you got it right there in front of you.
Well,
Yeah.
this one is a very good book called Memphis Martin and the Mountaintop. It's on the sanitation strike, 1968, and it's told through a little girl named Lorraine, and it's written by this one was written by Alice Faye Duncan, and so that's a beautiful poetry book, but it's also biographical, speaking about these events. The other one is very recent, and this one is with the legend Bill Withers. And
Mm.
even though Mr. Withers passed away, this is through his family. And this book is Grandma's Hands. It's a book available hopefully in your local library or available, online. But I have many, many books, and all the books are the same. They either deal with history or culture. And the books that I do tend to make you say, how come I didn't learn that? Or maybe like that should be a movie. I get that a lot when I start to talk about some of the historical figures that I've illustrated biographies about.
And how do you get selected to work on these various projects? Because obviously you have a mission about how you want the books you illustrate to be perceived, but obviously the author has to, somebody has to select you. So how does that work?
Well, the way it works is similar to the record industry and the film industry.
Mm-hmm.
You can consider me like a character actor. Not many of my books are the same, and just the same way an actor gets a script, I get a manuscript sent to me by a publisher. Usually it's a cold call. I wake up, check my email, and it'll be like, we have a book project. Would you be interested in illustrating it? And I'll either say yes or no. And that's how it works. Then I take the time to sketch it out. And what's interesting to people, sometimes it's interesting, is that I don't talk to the author after that. It's a collaborative effort, but it's compartmentalized. When you're dealing with publishers, you don't talk directly to the publisher to the author, and it's just the editor and the art director who you deal with. So again, it's just like people always wonder, but it's the same if you have a person who writes a screenplay or like a script or whatever. They don't stay on set and say, "Oh, when I wrote this, I meant to do
Right,
that."
right.
It's the same thing. So that's how it works.
It's very interesting. You also designed the Kwanzaa stamp. What year did you design?
2013, great year. I did the New Orleans Jazz Fest poster, the Kwanzaa stamp. I had a piece on the New York City subway for a year. So 2013 was my year.
Love it.
It was a
Well, and of course you also had a gallery. Where was it, in Atlanta? Is that where you had to?
Yes, that's the thing. I had an actual brick and mortar store that expanded into two spaces in malls. It was an idea to have a art school, gallery, and bookstore inside of a mall. I had $5 drop-in classes. The parents loved it. You could bring the whole family. So I've always felt like that was a way to give back. And now it's a lot to illustrate as a freelancer and be a manager of a store and things. And then COVID happened. So I decided to do more pop-up shops. And I do it in schools. I do school visits and I bring the materials and the racks and all that, and our book fairs. I do all that. But what really helped me was it was 7 days a week of working with people as an artist, because sometimes as an
Mm,
artist you like being in a studio by yourself. You
right.
just hours upon hours, you're not talking to anyone. And some artists are not very good with people or good with public speaking. The 7 day a week it was almost for 6 years I was doing it. And that meant New Year's Day, Christmas Eve, I had to work. I had to go because it was a mall, and the mall was crazy with come in at 7 in the morning and leave at midnight on Christmas Eve. So I really put the effort in, it wasn't necessarily for profit as much as I like working with people. I like working with people to help them see art in a way that they may not have ever thought of seeing it that way. And I also love promoting literacy to the point of letting young people know how important it is to be able to not only just to read, just to tick a box, but also to be able to comprehend, and how much that is going to help you when you get older. A lot of times you can't go back, but if you can listen to somebody older that can help you understand that all the stuff you're being told that you don't understand at that time will help you later on. Often it will help you later on.
Do audiobooks help or hurt the illustrator?
It's not, you know what?
It's not either or?
No, because here's the thing. When it comes, and I'm talking as a bookseller, when people buy children's books, it's a different thing than just regular literacy, regular
Gotcha.
books. For children's books, it's an impulse buy. That's the first thing. Because not many people get up in the morning and say, I need a children's book today. Some do, but not many. They usually see it and then buy it. Or they think, oh, Imani just had a child. Let me get this book for her.
Uh-huh.
So that's how it works. It's usually impulse, but audiobooks are great for maybe other countries or people to be able to log in. But that when I get my royalty statements, I think the audiobooks are not really that big of a thing. It's really the public will buy books for children. They'll spend on their children.
And because this is all in your business, but when you when the books are sold, you're as an illustrator, is it the author or do you still get some of that for every book sold?
Yes, it's a standard in children's books that you actually get a percentage of the sale on each book. It's not a lot, but it's enough. It's something.
Right.
You normally get an advance. An advance, just like I say, it's just like the record industry. You earn out what they gave you. But that's the thing that even someone who does not have a child, come to the festival, because I'm a resource for information. If you ever thought about writing a children's book, I can give you information and point you in the right direction and help you understand things that you may not know now. And if not me, there's something called Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators, and that's all over the country and the planet too.
Well, and then I'm sure you can help people finish the books they already started. So, all right, here we go. Our Greg Christie will be at the Light a Candle for Literacy Festival and Parade, September the 9th. The parade begins when, at what time, Cheryl?
The parade will leave at noon, but we're asking all of those who are interested in participating in the parade to arrive at 11. And you can go to our website, www.lightacandleforliteracy.org, and register to be part of the parade. But even if you don't register, still show up 11 o'clock Saturday, September 9th, and join the fun.
And that'll be at the Bishop Library, the parade. Then we'll march around and end up at the Brighton Academy, 300 West Brighton Avenue. Okay. Our Greg Christie.
On the West Lafayette side.
I was going to say, the official address is 300 West Brighton, but we know to go to the Lafayette side because that's where you get into the building. All right. Where the parking lot is on that side, because if you go to the Brighton side, it's a football field. The doors ain't open anyway. Okay, so now we know.
Right.
All right, that's September 9th, 11 o'clock for the parade, and then the festival, 1 o'clock over at Brighton Academy, between West Lafayette and West Brighton, or East Brighton Avenue, West Brighton Avenue. What's it? rgregchristie.com for his website and information. And Greg, so good to talk to you. And I look forward to hopefully meeting you on that day. And maybe I got a book in me. Who knows? But more importantly, we want you to encourage your children to read, come in their favorite literary character, and be a part of the parade. But more importantly, let's light a candle for literacy. Let's make sure that we encourage reading, because people and someone challenged me because I asked this question at a lecture. I'm part of the Friends of the Central Library, so I do a lot of. I go to all the lecture series, and I asked, who was this? Eddie Glaude. I asked him. I said, "So how do we get Black boys, in particular, to read more?" And he basically challenged the idea of that question, because he said they are reading. It's just what they're reading and how we count what they're reading. And I see both of y'all shaking your head, but I want people to get beyond just reading this, and I want them to pick up a book again. So that's my perception. Wrong as it may be, my perception is I want our kids to read more, especially because of how it affects the things they're going to do later. September 9th, 1 to 4, parade starts at 11, Beecham Library, which is on the corner of East Carvin Street and South Salina Street. West Carvin Street and South Salina Street. All right.
Yes.
With that being said.
And I would like to say that those people who are driving to start the parade, we will have transportation from the school to bring them back to get their vehicles.
There you go. Cheryl Bellamy, Light a Candle for Literacy, our Gregory Christie, who is an author, award-winning author, illustrator, award-winning illustrator, lecturer, trainer, teacher. You got it. The brother's doing all kinds of things and getting recognized for it. We thank you, Greg, for the time you spent with us, and we look forward to seeing you on the 9th of September to light a candle for literacy here on Inspiration for the Nation.
Thank you.